the Great Purge. It never fails. The left excels at weaponizing isolated acts of violence to demonize and suppress the peaceful political speech of millions. The tactic is nothing new. Bill Clinton exploited the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995 to target Rush Limbaugh and conservative talk radio. Liberal pundits decried a climate of hate by Clinton's critics for Timothy McVeigh's acts of terrorism and clamored for restrictions on conservatives' First and Second Amendment rights. Then, during the Obama years, millions of boomer Tea Party activists were treated like dangerous exotic creatures for politely attending Obamacare protests.
We came down to Congressman Tom Perriello's district in rural Virginia to try to get a sense of just what is going on at these town hall meetings and who is showing up.
There's nothing in the bill about health care. It's health insurance and who pays for it.
Will they be able to choose their own doctors?
I don't like it.
So frightening, right? Mainstream media reported that Joe Biden, Joe Biden, reportedly called those Tea Partiers terrorists. And when Tea Partiers confronted Obama about it, they were again cast as violent threats.
They said we were acting like terrorists.
You do realize that 90% of the domestic terrorist attacks are done by left-wing environmental radicals and not people like me.
Scary. Under Obama, the left falsely blamed Sarah Palin for the 2011 Tucson massacre committed by one lone lunatic, Jared Luffner, whose closest friends called him a nihilist pothead who was never really political at all. Before the shooting, Palin's Political Action Committee had used a standard map with crosshairs over Democrat Representative Gabby Gifford's district and others that were targeted for election. There was no evidence, none, zero, zilch, that Luffner had ever seen this map or that Palin ever intended violence. But the crisis exploiters of the left blamed her anyway.
People don't, they really need to realize that the rhetoric and firing people up and, even things, for example, we're on Sarah Palin's targeted list, but the thing is that the way that she has it depicted has the crosshairs of a gun sight over our district. And when people do that, they've got to realize there's consequences to that action.
Yeah, well, smears have consequences too. Palin's defamation lawsuit against the New York Times after it falsely blamed her for Tucson is scheduled to go to trial this July, 9 years later. Yep, nearly a decade later, we have the same types of opportunists milking last week's Capitol chaos to blame President Trump and his supporters for his rhetoric.
What is your role in what happened at the Capitol? What is your personal responsibility?
So if you read my speech, and many people have done it, and I've seen it both in the papers and in the media, on television, it's been analyzed, and people thought that what I said was totally appropriate.
Yeah, so in response to President Trump's defense of himself, hysterical liberal Vox.com journalists decried Trump for using the word fight 20 times on Twitter. Yeah, really, that's a trigger now, using the word fight. Well, then there's Josh Hawley, whose fist raised to rally-goers is now cast as an incitement to violence. Every expression of support and encouragement for conservatives' peaceful protest is being used against Republicans and Trump voters. It's all part of the time-worn playbook to diminish the law-abiding, constitutionally protected, peaceful, vigorous political speech and activism of the right. What's new is not this tactic, but the scale of the purge and the stifling of dissent thanks to Silicon Valley. Some 70,000 users on Twitter were summarily purged after being tarred as dangerous conspiracy theorists on Monday. Twitter alternatives Parler and Gab and now Telegram are under fire.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.